The current villain of the NBA, Dillon Brooks, has made a name for himself with his crazy acts on the court and tough style of play. Especially his recent beef with Luka Doncic heated up the whole NBA and basketball world. Other stars like Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James, even the entire Golden State Warriors team have felt from Brooks' intense style of play. But you all know in the NBA, rivalries make legends and villains make headlines. But what made Dillon Brooks the villain of the NBA? This video will take you from his childhood to the time when he became known as a fierce competitor. Watch the full video to see how Brooks got his villain title. Recently, the news talked about Brooks' questionable behavior after Canada beat Slovenia in the 2023 FIBA World Cup. His mockery of Slovenia's Klemen Prepelic led to his ejection. Moments later, Slovenia's Luka Doncic was also ejected, but it was Brooks who made light of the situation with the sly victory dance. Instead of being dejected after the game, Brooks met his teammates in the tunnel while donning boxing gloves. Now that's interesting, but has he always been this way? For this, we need to go back in time to his past. Born on January 22nd, 1996 in Mississauga, Canada, Dillon Brooks rocked the basketball scene in high school. Then, he became a college sensation with the Oregon Ducks, winning All-American and All-Pac-12 honors. Instead of jumping to the NBA after 2 years, he stuck around for a third, and boy did he shine, averaging 16.7 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 3.1 assists per game in his junior year. He made it clear he was a rising star in the basketball world. NBA scouts viewed him as a solid defender who could contribute offensively, but he wasn't considered a top-tier prospect. He was drafted in 2017 by the Houston Rockets with the 45th pick, but was quickly traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. Dillon Brooks used to argue with opponents in the NBA when he was younger, but they mostly stuck to the rules. The Memphis Grizzlies 2021 season took an interesting turn when they were put in a play-in tournament with the Golden State Warriors to see who would be the 8th spot in the Western Conference. Steph Curry and Draymond Green were no longer in the running for the title because the Grizzlies won that game. That was a big message for a team that hadn't been getting much attention. At this point in time, Dillon Brooks' rare trash-talking fights were not as interesting because the Grizzlies had the famous villain, Grayson Allen, on their team. Allen's style of play, although controversial, was beneficial to the Grizzlies and other teams he played for. He had a knack for getting under the opponent's skin, which was particularly valuable during their playoff run. However, after that playoff run, Grayson Allen was traded to Milwaukee, signifying the Grizzlies' confidence in their ability to fill his role. This opened up an opportunity for Dillon Brooks to step seamlessly into that role. As the playoffs approached, the Grizzlies faced the Warriors once again in a regular season matchup. Dillon Brooks confidently stated in a press conference that he and the Grizzlies aimed to build a dynasty. While it was undoubtedly a bold statement, you could understand the confidence given the Grizzlies' unexpected success as a young team. Memphis exceeded all expectations by finishing second in the regular season, and they went on to eliminate the Timberwolves in 6 games during the playoffs. However, their confidence sometimes bordered on cockiness. In the second round, they found themselves facing none other than the 3rd-seeded Golden State Warriors, a matchup with some history dating back to the previous year's play-in tournament. But this time around, the Golden State Warriors were a formidable force with Klay Thompson back in action and Jordan Poole making significant strides. Looking back, this playoff series would change how people perceive Dillon Brooks for quite some time. The series began with the physicality you'd expect from 2 competitive teams. In Game 1, Draymond Green and Brandon Clark had a heated exchange that ended with Draymond's ejection. Unfortunately, the Grizzlies lost Game 1 to the Dubs. The Grizzlies went on an 8-0 run early in Game 2, but then something crucial happened. Gary Payton II was going for a layup when Dillon Brooks made a hard foul that wasn't clear. Payton was thrown around, and the way he landed made people worry that he might have hurt himself. Brooks was thrown out of the game, and the Warriors coach Steve Kerr didn't hold back when he talked about how upset he was. He also taught his players that dangerous mistakes should never put someone's season or career at risk. Kerr said that Brooks had broken the code. Payton broke his arm, which was very bad news because it meant that he would miss the rest of the playoffs. Such a big disappointment for Payton. who had just had a great season and seemed to have found a home with the Warriors after being on a lot of different teams. Warriors players weren't afraid to show how upset they were with Brooks' actions. Some even said it looked like Brooks was trying to make the mistake. In the second quarter of Game 6, it appeared that Steph Curry fouled Brooks as he went for a layup. In frustration, Brooks retaliated by pushing Curry to the ground. This play was clearly intentional and not a basketball move. Brooks was assessed a flagrant foul 1 for his actions, and Klay Thompson had some choice words for him, resulting in both players receiving technical fouls. Now that's a lot of drama. After the Golden State Warriors closed out the playoff series in Game 6, Dillon Brooks made it clear in a post-game press conference that he wasn't backing down. He declared that he'd be back and emphasized that the Warriors were an aging team, while the Grizzlies were a young and upcoming squad. He even mentioned that they were aware of the Warriors' age catching up with them, and that Memphis was on the rise. The rivalry between these teams intensified in the following season, with emotions running high. In one game, Klay Thompson hit a shot that left Dillon Brooks falling to the floor, and Klay wasted no time taunting him, getting in his face. It seemed like payback for Brooks' actions in the 2022 playoffs. Later in the same game, Draymond Green also got in on the taunting action. In a post-game interview, Klay Thompson responded to Brooks' talk of building a dynasty, stating that it was premature to mention that word. He emphasized the commitment and sacrifice required to achieve such a feat, and suggested that it was too early for the Grizzlies to make such claims. Dillon Brooks had certainly become a polarizing figure, beloved by the Warriors players and fans, but perhaps less so by others. It's worth noting that he also had some heated battles with Mike Conley, his former teammate in Memphis. Although Conley had positive things to say about Brooks, their interactions on the court told a different story. In the 2021 playoffs, they engaged in a lot of trash talk, and things got testy. In the 2022-23 season, Brooks took his villain persona to new heights, frequently getting into heated exchanges on the court. For instance, in a game against the Timberwolves, he hit Anthony Edwards in the face, leading to a confrontation. Edwards even asked Ja Morant's dad to relay a message to Brooks to stop playing rough. Brooks wasn't done there. He also had intense trash-talking battles with Torrey Craig, with Ja Morant joining in on the action. And who could forget the incident with Shannon Sharpe, which started with none other than Dillon Brooks, sparking a memorable trash-talking exchange. It seems that Brooks had a knack for getting under opponents' skin and relishing in the role of the villain on the court. Dillon Brooks wasn't the only Grizzlies player who got in trouble on the court. Ja Morant's dad, T. Morant, was also involved. When Brooks called Shannon Sharpe a regular pedestrian and a blogger in an interview after the game, things got worse. It was clear that the arguing and name-calling went on after the game. Even though Brooks was often at the center of controversial plays, other players were quick to fight back and complain about how rough he played. For example, Brooks fiercely fouled Pascal Siakam after the whistle in a game against the Raptors. Recently, during a game against the Cavs, Brooks drove to the hoop and collided with the Cavs defender, Evan Mobley. When Brooks hit the floor, it seemed like he intentionally rolled over and threw his arm, hitting Donovan Mitchell where it hurts the most. Mitchell didn't take kindly to this and aggressively threw the ball back at Brooks. The two exchanged words before a swarm of players intervened. Donovan Mitchell, the star guard for the Cavs, had some strong words about Dillon Brooks, suggesting that when you can't keep up with someone on the court, resorting to such tactics is what he's done against many players. In his 6 seasons in the league, Dillon Brooks has accumulated a total of $300,000 in fines, which is quite a hefty sum for a relatively young player, don't you think? Brooks is undoubtedly a relentless competitor who doesn't shy away from confrontations, but it's safe to say that favorite isn't the first word that comes to mind when thinking of him. In fact, he's probably your favorite player's least favorite player. From his time in college to his time in the pros, Dillon Brooks has always looked for trouble. His antics on the court made him the NBA's bad boy, but he doesn't have many friends in the NBA because he's so confrontational. But in Memphis, he was a force to be reckoned with, and an important part of the Grizzlies squad, until they let him go after last year's playoff. To everyone's surprise, the Houston Rockets decided to put a lot of money on Brooks and sign him to a 4-year, $80 million deal. For a young man, the Rockets hope that Brooks' intensity will give them the boost they need. They're paying for more than just the player he is. They're paying for the edge he brings to the team, the fire that can motivate and drive them. In this case, Brooks' behavior might be questionable, but the Rockets might be able to defend their investment in him because of what he could do for them. Do you think Dillon Brooks is the most hated player, or do you have someone else in mind? Let us know in the comments. Also, subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos like this.